The morning of February 12th, 1944, came without color, only the endless gray of sky and snow. At Airfield K-42 near Vitebsk, the 22nd Guards Fighter Regiment prepared for another reconnaissance escort. Pilots stamped their boots against the frost, while mechanics primed engines with numb hands. Among them was Captain Alexei Voronin, 26 years old, a veteran of 2 campaigns. His call sign was Falcon 1. The ground crew remembered him calm, even cheerful, joking that winter itself was an enemy to be outflown. At 7:43, his Yak-9 rolled down the icy strip, climbed into the haze, and vanished toward the west. Radio contact lasted 8 minutes. The last transmission crackled through static. Target sighted, adjusting course south. Then silence. No distress call, no parachute seen. The regiment logged him missing by midday. Search crews found the crash site 2 days later, twisted fuselage embedded in the frozen marsh, engine sheared away. The cockpit was shattered, yet the harness unbuckled, canopy open as if by choice. No trace of the pilot. They collected serial fragments, marked the coordinates, and buried the scattered debris beneath the snow. The report read, "Pilot presumed killed, remains unrecovered." But on the night of the 15th, the radio watch at K-42 logged an impossible entry. A faint signal on Channel 3. "Falcon 1 returning. Request bearings." The voice was clear, calm, unmistakably Voronin's. The operator froze, then answered. No reply came. Subsequent checks confirmed that Channel 3 had been detuned and unpowered since the lost report. For a week, the transmissions continued. Always the same call sign, brief, clipped, almost routine. Altitude 25, fuel steady, visibility poor. Engineers dismantled the receiver, suspecting interference from another unit, yet the signal's origin triangulated to empty airspace 20 kilometers north of the crash site. Pilots began volunteering for night patrols, hoping to intercept the voice. None succeeded. One crew reported seeing a solitary Yak outline crossing the moonlight at impossible altitude, engine soundless. Command ordered the channel sealed and all mentions of the phenomenon stricken from logs. Colonel Dmitriev, regiment commander, demanded answers. Intelligence officers suggested enemy deception, a German transmitter mimicking Soviet codes. The cipher, however, matched Voronin's personal key, known only to him and a single adjutant. On February 22nd, a reconnaissance pilot reported escorting an unidentified aircraft bearing red stars. When approached, it banked sharply and vanished into cloud. Ground radar confirmed nothing. By March, Falcon 1 became both superstition and rallying cry. Younger pilots tapped the tail of their planes before flight, murmuring for Alexei. Official communiques referred to unverified airborne signals. But within the regiment, men began calling it the Ghost Wing. One mechanic, Sergeant Costin, left a diary later confiscated by NKVD. In it, he described repairing Voronin's backup transmitter recovered from the wreckage. When connected to power, the set emitted a steady tone at exactly the frequency of the phantom calls. The signal stopped only when he removed the crystal marked with Voronin's initials. That night, Costin dreamt of a cockpit filled with frost and a pilot whispering coordinates over an empty horizon. The next morning, the crystal was gone. His diary ends with the line, "He still flies." By late February, the regiment was exhausted. Sorties rose before dawn, returned by darkness, and losses mounted faster than replacements arrived. Yet every evening, the same call sign returned on the air. Falcon 1 on approach. Some operators began answering out of habit. Others removed their headphones and prayed. A new squadron rotated in from Smolensk, unaware of the legend. On their first night patrol, they reported formation lights above the clouds, 3 planes instead of 2. The third, they swore, flew with no exhaust flame. It broke away and vanished when they tried to signal. Their instruments flickered, and the compass spun as though chased by static. On landing, they were told to file no report. Command finally organized a ground search to locate whatever was sending the transmissions. The column left the airfield on March 3rd. Visibility collapsed within hours. Radio contact failed by nightfall. A single message broke through the static at 22:10. Falcon 1 Gaiden, follow beacon. The voice was steady, unhurried. The convoy never arrived. When the storm cleared, scouts found 2 trucks half buried in drifts, engines cold, doors open. The compasses inside all pointed west instead of north. No tracks led away. Headquarters blamed whiteout and frostbite. The file closed with the phrase, "Crew lost to exposure." A week later, a reconnaissance unit discovered another Yak-9 wreck less than 30 kilometers from the first. The markings matched Voronin's plane. The serial plate, however, carried a later number, one assigned to a replacement airframe built after his disappearance. The cockpit was crushed, the harness buckled, the pilot burned beyond recognition. Inside the pocket of the flight suit, they found a medal engraved, "To Alexei." The identification tag was missing. The regiment buried the remains with honors, confident the ghost was laid to rest. The radio logs were sealed and sent to division archives. The final investigation concluded the transmissions were echoes from damaged relay equipment, perhaps caused by atmospheric interference. The report mentioned no sightings, no missing convoy, no duplicate aircraft. Men accepted the explanation because they wanted the war to make sense again. The colonel read the findings aloud, signed them, and ordered the frequency dismantled. That evening, the base celebrated quietly, pouring contraband vodka for the dead. The wind outside carried faint static through the open flap, like distant Morse. 3 nights later, an artillery unit east of Orsha recorded a stray transmission on an unused channel. The signal lasted less than 30 seconds. Falcon 1 returning, visibility clear, landing soon. The operator tried to reply but heard only a long breath followed by silence. Patrols scanned the horizon. Nothing crossed the sky. At dawn, frost traced wings across the field. Perfect outlines, already melting under the sun. The entry in the logbook ended with one word, underlined twice, unverified. The war moved on, but whenever the wind carries static through the snow, old airmen still pause, listening for a voice that calls itself home.